Hi everyone, and welcome to our Year 3 English Lesson 22. So for today we are continuing on writing our own imaginative narratives based on the theme of friendship. So on Monday we wrote our orientation paragraph, yesterday we wrote our problem paragraph with our rising actions, and today we're going to have a look at writing our solution paragraph, which will end with our resolution for the story. So in this we will see our falling actions, which lead to how the story ultimately finishes. So I'm going to go through and read mine and then go through and explain it all for you again. The next day, as Benji was relaxing out in the shimmering sunlight, he heard a rustle in the forest just outside the gate. He looked up to see Roger sitting there with a big, toothy grin on his face and a long stick sitting at his paws. "Want to play fetch?" asked Roger. Benji turned away, still grumpy from the previous day. "I bet I can find the stick before you," challenged Roger. "No, you wouldn't," answered back Benji. "Come on then, let's see," he yelled as he threw the stick. It went flying through the air. Both dogs immediately started running after it, racing one another. They both reached the stick at the same time, but instead of fighting, they both rolled over with laughter. They picked up the stick and started walking back. "Same time tomorrow?" asked Roger. Benji nodded and yelled, "See you at the gate," as he walked in the other direction. Roger and Benji now play fetch every day and are best friends. Alright, so let's start at the beginning of this paragraph. So the next day, once again, I have included when it's happening. I've included that when. I've got my characters mentioned in it, and you can see here shimmering sunlight. I've used a bit of alliteration where I've used the same beginning sound. But this is also a noun group. So I've just described the sunlight to help the reader form a better picture in their head. He heard a rustle. Now, rustle is a better word than just a noise. If I were to just write a noise, does that give the reader much information about what type of noise it is? No, it doesn't. Whereas if it's a rustle, you imagine leaves moving, making that noise where they rub together sort of noise. So that is a rustle in the forest just outside the gate. So I've included a where there as well, just outside the gate. He looked up to see Roger sitting there with a big, toothy grin on him. Okay, and look here, I've used some adjectives to describe my word of grin, a big toothy grin. And you can see that I've used a comma to separate my two adjectives for this word. On his face, and a long stick sitting at his paws. Now you can notice I've used the word paws because paws is a more accurate word when we're talking about a wolf. And that's who the character that we're talking about, where it's sitting with the stick. Want to play fetch? Asked Roger, turning away, still grumpy. So I've linked it back to what was already happening in the story and said that he's still grumpy from the previous day. Now, Roger here has challenged Benji, which obviously that is going to get a bit of buy-in from Benji into our story, which then we had Benji answer back that no, he couldn't. Now, there was one thing I noticed when I was rereading this. I've said here both dogs. Now, you could technically call, obviously Benji's a dog, you could technically call a wolf a dog, but I could say both of them instead of dogs. Immediately started running after it, racing one another. They both reached the stick at the same time, but instead of fighting, they rolled over with laughter. So me using this sentence, or this part of the sentence, rolled over with laughter, that also has a lot of information in it that will give the reader a picture in their head. They picked up the stick and started walking back. "Same time tomorrow?" asked Roger. Benji nodded and yelled, "See you at the gate," as he walked into the other direction. So here they've come up with something. My solution was that they've both found something that they enjoyed doing, and they enjoy doing it together now. So it's sort of, without realizing that it's happening, these two have become friends. And they have a pattern now. Every day they are going to go and play this game of fetch with each other, or chasey, or first to the stick, whatever game you would like to call it. And it just naturally comes to a solution where they are best friends and they do this every day. So that is my story. Once again, you can see all those things that I mentioned in the previous video. I've got my capital letters. I've made sure if I had a name, I made the first letter a capital letter, because when we're talking about a name for somebody, we always use a capital letter for it. I've used my full stops at the end of my sentences, question marks, exclamation marks when they've been needed, and my open and closing speech marks as well whenever they were required when my characters were talking in my story. So, as you can see, this paragraph actually ended up being my biggest paragraph, which is okay. I could have split it into 2 paragraphs, but I didn't have to as well. You can just focus on your 3. If you get to the point where it is getting a bit larger than what I've got, I'd suggest you do break it up. Maybe I could have broken it up where about here. So this last little bit could have been its own paragraph where they talk about the future. Same time tomorrow. See you at the gate. Okay? So go ahead, do your writing. Don't forget, send it through to us so we can give you some feedback. We love seeing your writing and we can't wait to see these stories when they are finished.